All this is enacted by the modes of material nature. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume any one's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. When, however, one is enlightened, the knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then his knowledge reveals everything, as the sun lights up everything in the daytime. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes fully cleansed of misgivings through complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of liberation. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater outcast. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the signs of God, is already situated in transcendence. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so a wise man does not delight in them. Giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are sure of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. Shutting out all external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. A person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the Supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and nourishment of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. Okay, the verdict from Homa. Homa. Let the record show that Homa has chosen verse number 15. Do you have any particular reason you chose it? It's a very philosophical verse. This could lead to some pretty heavy conversation. We could be here all night because of you.
I just feel bad for you that it's one part.
Narate kasyachit papam, narate kasyachit papam, na chaiva sukritam bhikkhu, ajñānen avritam jnānam, anyone's papam, sin, na, nor, cha, also, eva, certainly, sukritam, pious activities, vibhuhu, the Supreme Lord, ajñānina, by ignorance, avritam, covered, jnanam, knowledge, tena, by that, muhyanti, are bewildered, jantavaha, the living entities. Now, Advaitacharya used to teach Bhagavad Gita every night at his house in the open courtyard, and everyone all the devotees used to come and hear his devotional commentary, including Lord Chaitanya's elder brother Vishvarup. Advaitacharya had a deep-seated desire to serve Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He knew that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he disliked the fact that
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu treated him with great respect because he was the elder. And Mahaprabhu used to treat him as his spiritual master, but Advaita Acharya wanted to offer that kind of respect to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, desiring to reverse the roles, one night, instead of giving his normal classes with a Vaishnava commentary, Advaita Acharya had a plan to invoke the ire of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And there's one way to do that very quickly, and that is to speak non-devotional philosophy, that is, Mayavad. So he began to speak on the Yoga Vashishta and give an impersonal commentary, saying that Gyan, leading to impersonal realization, was actually the highest method for self-realization. And the devotees that were sitting in the courtyard heard him speaking this philosophy, and some of them went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and told him, Advaita Acharya is speaking from the Yoga Vashishta and saying that Gyan is higher than Bhakti. And Mahaprabhu became angry and hurried to that place where Advaita Acharya was giving the talk. And as he came into the courtyard, Advaita Acharya continued his commentary on the Yoga Vashishta, saying Gyan is higher than Bhakti. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then spoke to him some angry words and said, how can you say this, Advaita? What are you talking about? Which is higher, Gyan or Bhakti? And Advaita Acharya said, Gyan is higher than Bhakti. And Mahaprabhu then approached him and he said, tell which is higher, Gyan or Bhakti? And Advaita Acharya said, Gyan, Gyan. And Mahaprabhu in his anger, he grabbed Advaita Acharya and he pulled him off of his seat. And he said, which is higher, Gyan or Bhakti? And Advaita Acharya said, Gyan, Gyan. And as he said that, Mahaprabhu began to beat him. And Sita Thakurani, the wife of Advaita Acharya, came running out to the courtyard and said, no, no, stop, he's an old man. And as Mahaprabhu continued with his rage, hearing these words from Advaita Acharya, suddenly he noticed that Advaita Acharya had a big smile on his face. And he was relishing this chastisement from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu suddenly stopped, realizing what he had done. And then Advaita Acharya said, now we see who is the real master. And his wish was fulfilled. So tonight we're beginning our session with Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is the sure way to develop a direct relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. From the lotus mouth of Krishna has emanated this beautiful sound vibration called the Song of God. And anyone who hears it regularly is uplifted in all aspects of life. The intelligence becomes fortified, the heart becomes devotional. And Advaita Acharya would speak on Bhagavad Gita constantly. Once he came to a verse in the 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita that speaks about how the arms and legs of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are everywhere. And it's a very difficult verse to understand. Advaita Acharya would not move on to the next verse that he was speaking about until he had realization of the verse he was on. And he was bewildered by this particular verse, and not getting the understanding of the verse, he became very morose, and then he said, I'm going to fast until I can understand the meaning of this verse. And later Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, within his heart, revealed the meaning to the verse. And when Mahaprabhu was performing his Mahaprakash, which we saw the site of the other day at Shiva Sangam, he revealed to Advaita Acharya that when you were in anxiety and fasting, not knowing the meaning of this verse from the Bhagavad Gita, I revealed it to you from within your heart. And Advaita Acharya could understand the omniscience of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from that statement. So we follow the footsteps tonight of Advaitacharya by hearing this commentary picked by Homa from the 5th chapter, 15th verse. Translation. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their real knowledge. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Sanskrit word vibhu means the Supreme Lord who is full of unlimited knowledge, riches, strength, fame, beauty, and renunciation. He is always satisfied in himself, undisturbed by sinful or pious activities. He does not create a particular situation for any living entity, but the living entity, bewildered by ignorance, desires to be put into certain conditions of life, and thereby his chain of action and reaction begins. A living entity is, by superior nature, full of knowledge. Nevertheless, he is prone to be influenced by ignorance due to his limited power. The Lord is omnipotent, but the living entity is not. The Lord is vibhu, or omniscient, but the living entity is anu, or atomic. Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Because he is a living soul, he has the capacity to desire by his free will. Such desire is fulfilled only by the omnipotent Lord. And so, when the living entity is bewildered in his desires, the Lord allows him to fulfill those desires, but the Lord is never responsible for the actions and reactions of the particular situation which may be desired. Being in a bewildered condition, therefore, the embodied soul identifies himself with the circumstantial material body and becomes subjected to the temporary misery and happiness of life. The Lord is the constant companion of the living entity as Paramatma, or the Supersoul, and therefore he can understand the desires of the individual soul, as one can smell the flavor of a flower by being near it. Desire is a subtle form of conditioning for the living entity. The Lord fulfills his desire as he deserves. Man proposes and God disposes. The individual is not, therefore, omnipotent in fulfilling his desires. The Lord, however, can fulfill all desires, and the Lord, being neutral to everyone, does not interfere with the desires of the minute, independent living entities. However, when one desires Krishna, the Lord takes special care and encourages one to desire in such a way that one can attain to him and be eternally happy. The Vedic hymns therefore declare, Esha u hye vasadu karma, karayati tam yam ebhyo lokebhya uninishate, Esha u evasadu karma karayati yam ado ninishate. The Lord engages the living entity in pious activities so that he may be elevated. The Lord engages him in impious activities so that he may go to hell. From the Koshitaki Upanishad. From which Upanishad? That's right, it's the Koshitaki. Agno jantor anisho yam atmana sukha dukhayoho Ishvara prerito gashchet swargam vashva pram evacha. The living entity is completely repentant in his distress and happiness. But by the will of the Supreme, he can go to heaven or hell as a cloud is driven by the air. Therefore, the embodied soul, by his immemorial desire to avoid Krishna consciousness, causes his own bewilderment. Consequently, although he is constitutionally eternal, blissful and cognizant, due to littleness of his existence, he forgets his constitutional position of service to the Lord and is thus entrapped by nescience. And under the spell of ignorance, the living entity claims that the Lord is responsible for his conditional existence. The Vedanta Sutra 2.134 also confirms this. Vaishamya nagnye na sapak shatvat tatahi darshayati. The Lord neither hates nor likes anyone, though he appears to. Hare Krishna. Anything you heard that stuck in your mind? Yes?
Regarding the last statement, the Lord neither hates nor likes anyone to be useful. Is it true with the Lord's devotees also? They don't like arguing or clothing?
Yeah, I'll answer that by reading you the first from the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Where Krishna says, if I'm speaking slowly and delaying, Samaham sarvabhuteshu navidveshostina priyaha. And this is verse 29 in chapter 9. Samaham sarvabhuteshu navidveshostina priyaha ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya maite teshu chapyaham. Translation, I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Purport. One may question here that if Krishna is equal to everyone and no one is his special friend, then why does he take a special interest in the devotee who always engages in his transcendental service? That's your question, right?
No, my question is, regarding the statement that Krishna said, does it apply to devotees also?
Yeah, it's similar. But this is not discrimination, it is natural. Any man in this material world may be very charitably disposed, yet he has a special interest in his own children. The Lord claims that every living entity in whatever form is his son, and so he provides everyone with a generous supply of the necessities of life. He is just like a cloud which pours rain all over, regardless of whether it falls on rock or land or water. But for his devotees, he gives special attention. Such devotees are mentioned here. They are always in Krishna consciousness, and therefore they are always transcendently situated in Krishna. The very phrase, Krishna consciousness, suggests that those who are in such consciousness are living transcendentalists, situated in him. The Lord says here distinctly, Maite, they are in me. Naturally, as a result, the Lord is also in them. This is reciprocal. This also explains the word the words ye yata mam prapadyante tam statai bhajamyaham. Whoever surrenders unto me, proportionately I take care of him. This transcendental reciprocation exists because both the Lord and the devotee are conscious. When a diamond is set in a golden ring, it looks very nice. The gold is glorified, and at the same time, the diamond is glorified. The Lord and the living entity eternally glitter, and when a living entity becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord, he looks like gold. The Lord is a diamond, and so this combination is very nice. Living entities in a pure state are called devotees. The Supreme Lord becomes the devotee of his devotees. If a reciprocal relationship is not present between the devotee and the Lord, then there is no personalist philosophy. In the impersonal philosophy, there is no reciprocation between the Supreme and the living entity, because in the personalist philosophy there is. The example is often given that the Lord is like a desire tree, and whatever one wants from this desire tree, the Lord supplies. But here the explanation is more complete. The Lord is here stated to be partial to the devotees. This is the manifestation of the Lord's special mercy to the devotees. Uh-oh. Ramananda Saka won't be able to hear the answer. Just let me finish this one part. But here the explanation is more complete. The Lord is here stated to be partial to the devotees. This is the manifestation of the Lord's special mercy to the devotees. The Lord's reciprocation should not be considered to be under the laws of karma. It belongs to the transcendental situation in which the Lord and his devotees function. Devotional service to the Lord is not an activity of this material world. It is part of the spiritual world where eternity, bliss, and knowledge predominate. So there's a transcendental exchange between the Lord and the devotees because they're both conscious and they both have free will. The Lord has unlimited free will and the living entity has minute free will. And although this verse says that although he's impartial to everyone, he is partial to his devotees. Madhukari?
Yeah, I was going to say, that's interesting. Because the verse seems a little esoteric. You know, like, notice the Supreme Lord assuming it was pious or something like that. It's like, when I first heard that, I was thinking, what is that? But in the purport, it's explaining how, I think that Prabhupada was explaining how that, because people try to blame God for their position. Like, they're trying to say that it's because, like, I'm experiencing so much difficulty in my life, you know, God's like punishing me for something, so they try to, but that's actually a result of their own activities, like whatever situation that they're in.
Lucky thing, too, because if God was simply interested in punishing randomly, then we'd have no hope. But actually, he is a completely just, and that's what the laws of nature mean, that there's an equal opposite reaction to whatever we do. It's not more or less than we deserve. And he's not involved in pushing us towards sinful activities or pious activities, but when we become involved in the cycle of the material world, we implicate ourselves, and therefore we can also extricate ourselves. And that's why there's Shastra. The Vedanta Sutra says that the living entity is capable of extricating himself. Otherwise, why is there Shastra? The Shastra must have some meaning. It's speaking to someone, therefore the living entity can take advantage of it and rise above the modes of nature and the reactions. Gandharvika?
So, Prabhuji, so when we say that Krishna is not responsible for our suffering, but we also understand that not even a blade of grass moves without the sanction of Krishna. So in our day-to-day life, how do we relate both and come to a higher understanding that though it is Krishna who's doing it, but it's because of me. So how do we practically apply these two concepts in our day-to-day life?
That by understanding what is the actual situation, that as the verse is saying, we're implicated because of our own misgivings. If you're unacquainted with the laws of driving, then you'll probably incur some kind of ticket or you'll have some accident. And ignorance of the laws is no excuse. The reaction is still there. A court judge gives one person $1 million and another person is sentenced to 100 years in jail. And someone might say, well, the judge is being very partial here. You know, why did he give that man 100 years in jail and the other man $1 million? And the answer is he's impartial. But he's, according to the law, meting out a certain kind of punishment or reward according to what's required by the law. So mercy is above justice. In this world there's justice, equal opposite reaction. But mercy is also available too, which means that we can, or Krishna can supersede the laws of nature for those who come to knowledge and actually begin to worship him and practice Krishna consciousness. he helps to extricate the living entity from the material world. As was mentioned here, he gives the intelligence so that they can come out of ignorance. Ignorance also means ignorance. So it's the original cause of becoming implicated, is turning one's face away from the Supreme. Sam, you had your hand.
Actually, it's relevant to what you just said. You just want to purport of 515 where Prabhupada said, with regards to how the Lord doesn't assume most sinful or pious reactions. These are due to our, I forget how exactly, but something like our, since time immemorial, our avoidance of Krishna. And that struck out for me, is that there's kind of a deep-seated turning away from Krishna. And sometimes it feels like devotional service that, I mean, it's always a wonderful thing. But there's almost like a hidden enemy, if you could kind of personalize it, someone that you're fighting, someone that just wants to turn away. That knows deep down that there is Krishna. And there's also this playground that I'm making myself right now. I just thought that was an interesting way to
Avoidance. That there's a tendency to avoid Krishna. And therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam says that the remedy is to turn our attention back to Krishna. And because of that, we'll solve the problem. Payam dvitiya viniveshatasya ishad apetasya viparyayo smiti tanmayato buddha abhajetam bhaktyayakayesham gurudeva tatma. Kavi Yogendra describes how the problem is that I've developed an opposite kind of intelligence. I've turned my face away from Krishna and become absorbed in the shadow rather than the reality. Dvitiya means the material body, that which isn't really myself. And therefore, the verse says that one should then turn one's attention back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by doing that, then one turns towards the light. And after these verses, Krishna says, Jnanena titata jnanam, that just like when the sun comes up, you can see what is what, and you know how to act properly, and your misgivings are eradicated because of the light. So in the same way, by the process of direct Krishna consciousness, the problem is solved. And now we're going to sing the 100 names of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Sarva Oma Kripa Moha
Continuing the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Last night, where did we end? On what point?
Chapter 34th verse.
No, but what philosophical point did we walk out with and dream about last night? And wake up telling everybody in the morning right after Mangalarti.
We was talking about hearing, being attracted to hearing a certain kind of pastime or like activities of Krishna.
Yeah.
It indicates the constitutional position of the living entity.
Shoo. Fantastic. And what else? Another phrase.
Also, the Lord's pastimes are going on in every species of life, although it's inconceivable to the human brain.
Oh, they're going on in every species of life, inconceivable to the human brain. Sundar.
Appreciating capacity.
Yeah, the appreciating capacity. I was telling a few people after Mangalarti this morning that we have an appreciating capacity. According to the capacity we have to appreciate the Lord. In fact, Itam sutam brahma sukana bhutya dasyam katanam paradaivatena mayashikanam naradarakena sakam vritaru krita punya punjaha. Do you know that verse? Yeah. Yes?
I have one comment to make regarding the appreciating capacity.
Yes.
I read somewhere that those who
To the right. To the left. Right in front of Dave.
those who take pleasure in doing the devotion service, or those who take pleasure in others doing the devotion service, both of them are considered deliberative souls.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We talked about that also as far as whatever you appreciate, appreciates. And the quote from Voltaire about whatever you appreciate in others, to the degree that you appreciate the good qualities in others, you also assume those qualities. Queen Kunti mentions in her prayer, Srinvanti Gayanti Grinanti Sadhava, that when one is able to appreciate the devotional service of others, this is another kind of direct worship of the Lord, appreciating the devotional service of others. So you can appreciate your way back to Godhead. We're little individual appreciators, and to the degree our appreciating capacity is blocked, and we're in serious trouble. This is nirmatsara, where envy is a kind of a disease, a covering of the soul, and it blocks the soul's ability to appreciate God and all of His creation and everything else. In the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami begins speaking to Parikshit Maharaj about the universe, the universal form, pointing out to him that it's actually personal. And there's a way in which one develops gratitude when you see how the trees are reaching out their arms with fruits and offering them, and the streams are giving water and so forth. Magnificent is the creation of the Lord. And begin to appreciate that there's something personal behind it. Sometimes people nowadays say, you know, they appreciate the universe. They don't go as far as saying God or a personal God or something like that. It's like, the universe really gave me this new car and I really appreciate it. And Krishna talks about that in the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. What is that verse? Where there's several different kinds of people who have sort of an indescript understanding, undefined understanding of God, and they worship God in indirect ways. However, the more that we develop our appreciating capacity, the more we're able to advance in devotional service, or we should say, the more we are advanced in devotional service. Nicole, do you have a point?
I guess when you were just talking about that appreciation, it made me think that to appreciate, we also have to have some other qualities. Because myself, sometimes I find it hard to appreciate someone all the time, or a situation all the time. So I think that I also have to develop qualities like empathy and compassion and gratitude. in order to appreciate, and there's probably other qualities as well. But those three came to my mind, to be able to appreciate.
How is it that you need compassion and those other things in order to appreciate?
I may not understand, like if it's a person, I may not understand their situation or their consciousness. Or, so in order to be able to appreciate them and their service, I would have to have an empathy.
Kondoni is shaking her head, so I think she agrees with you. Yeah.
You really expanded on what Prabhuji said. You went into deeper into the concept of appreciation. Yes.
Well, there's a verse in the 6th chapter where Krishna talks about empathy, and he says that an advanced yogi is one who is able to empathize with the happiness and distress of others, relating it to his or her own experience. And that certainly would give a better perspective for appreciating. Is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Okay. Madhukari.
I was wondering if you could sort of like break down or dissect what it looks like to have one's capacity to appreciate, Krishna expand or increase, what it looks like, because one has a capacity.
Well, to a very high degree, tate anukampam, tate anukampam, sumishamano, punjadeva, krikam vivakam, kripaka purvir vidadam namaste, jiveta yo mukti pade sadayapa. I mean, this is a very advanced stage of appreciation that God sends me miseries, and I appreciate it. Some trouble comes, Queen Kunti says, and thank you, I appreciate that Krishna sent me an adverse situation or even a calamity to shake me to my core. Parikshit Maharaj is described as having developed these high qualities. The first one is called Shantir, or forgiveness. And when he's cursed by Shringi, this ignorant, very impudent young boy who simply misuses his brahminical power to curse the king, who's faultless, then King Parikshit says, "Thank you, Krishna. It's the only way I would have come out of my entanglement. I thank you so much. I really appreciate that." How you chastised me, how you've dealt with me in this situation. That's one way you can see a very broad spectrum of appreciation, that you can appreciate everything, whatever happens, even good or bad things.
Just that one thing I heard you say that is, if you want to develop unflinching faith and devotion, you have to be with reason to flinch.
Yeah, to have developed unflinching faith, you have to have lots of opportunities to flinch, otherwise how will you know? And therefore, those who go out and circulate to distribute Krishna consciousness meet many kinds of obstacles and objections that they have to overcome. I always say that it's better to come away from a hearing chanting session with more questions than answers, because it leaves you in a hungry state. When we have an in-depth discussion and we develop a series of questions that we feel that we've just touched the surface of, that they've stimulated our mind in a certain direction, then we go out into the world hungry and ready for hearing from all kinds of other people to fill in those gaps. And there's a perpetual learning process. We're eternally students. And also when we are fortified by that kind of knowledge and then we encounter difficulty, then we get to measure how much we're able to apply it. We hear about these things philosophically, but when it actually happens to me, then and how can I actually apply it in my life, it develops strength in Krishna consciousness, or it helps me to measure how far I've come. So nice point. How that?
Would it be wrong to appreciate things that are not Krishna conscious?
Would it be wrong to appreciate things that are not Krishna conscious? Well, it would be, in the Bhagavatam, Krishna says to Brahma that anything that you see, for that matter appreciate, that isn't in relationship to me is my illusory energy. It's Maya. It's like Maharaj was pointing out in the class this morning, that there's facts and then there's reality. Reality means that it's connected to Krishna because everything's part of the Supreme One without, with an absolute one, but he has different aspects. Everything that happens can be related to Krishna. So if you see non-devotional activities, but then you see how they're related to Krishna, and you appreciate it from that point of view. For instance, Dharma, the bull, in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is being beaten by a low-class person. It's representative of how, in the age of Kali Yuga, the basic principles of truthfulness and cleanliness and austerity and so forth are being diminished by a brutal kind of culture, brutish kind of culture. And when Dharma, the bull, is questioned by Maharaj Parikshit, who did this to you? He doesn't name the culprit, and he appreciates that it's going on by the force of God's higher energy, Kala, or time, and destiny. And so there's a way that if we see things that are non-devotional, we might appreciate the fact that there's going to be a reaction to them, or we see them in perspective. And if there's a way, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that I'm the ability in man. So if you see somebody in the Olympics who can jump really high, you might think that, okay, that's a non-devotional activity. I mean, they're very devoted, but not to Krishna. They spend like 16 years trying to jump a quarter of an inch higher than the last person, But there's a lot of devotion, and obviously people are enamored of watching this because there's sort of a grace to it, and we have an interest in seeing the ability in man. So if you see that and you say, well, that ability is coming from Krishna. The ability to do what they're doing is being supplied by Krishna. The intelligence and the strength and so forth. And you appreciate it from that point of view, so it has a connection, ultimately. Otherwise, it becomes disconnected, and then it's a part of Krishna's illusory energy called Maya. Anything that doesn't connect to the supreme whole of the center becomes useless, disconnected. Just like a finger, when it's on part of the hand, it's valuable, but as soon as it's disconnected and lying in the street, nobody wants to touch it. It's not valuable. Or even a little screw. I remember this from 4th grade. We had these projectors, and it was always the happiest time in school when they'd bring the projector in, because that meant the teacher would stop talking and get to the And I remember somebody in the class, some little vandal kid, had taken one of the bolts off of the thing. I think we even saw him do it or something during lunch, and just thought it was funny. But it wasn't so funny when the film wouldn't work and we didn't get to watch the movie. But I always remember that one little bolt in the whole movie. If the bolt was connected, it was very valuable. But once it's disconnected, then it's just a bolt. So anything that's not connected to Krishna doesn't have relevance, and anything that is certainly relevant. Prabhupada mentions that we're not interested in battles and battlefields and so forth, but we are interested in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, because Krishna fought there. And therefore the weapons and all the description of the armies and everything has great significance because it's connected. Is that right? Okay. Yes, Varsha.
I have a question. A person does some work, others appreciate, but I personally feel it is not, that is not an appreciation. Like a person does some work which is not connected with Krishna or not devotional service. The person does some work for his satisfaction. That work should also be appreciated because others are appreciated.
Well, we appreciate it according to its connection to Krishna. That's the particular perspective of the devotee. And so we don't appreciate it as very valuable unless it has some connection to the whole. If it's disconnected or something's, an activity is performed for sense gratification or for a selfish purpose without a connection to Krishna, we don't appreciate it.
But the other person who thinks that he should be or she should be appreciated, so in that case, do you think out of the way one should go to appreciate us to satisfy that?
It depends on the context. You know, obviously in our everyday dealings, there are ways in which we show courtesies, and we're not simply isolated in our vision that, well, that's not connected to devotional service, therefore we treat everyone we meet with disrespect. But, you know, for instance, if you're living and working with people who are performing non-devotional activities, Krishna says in the Gita that you shouldn't discourage them, but simply encourage them to go on with whatever activities they're doing, but to learn how to connect them so that they can benefit from them. Yes?
When you were speaking more about, like, I guess the person, the Olympic, maybe trying all these years to, excuse me, to jump a little further, we said we can appreciate that because obviously Krishna gives the ability. But is there a limit or some boundaries to how much a devotee should devote time and energy? You know, here in America, NFL and sports are just out of control as far as people's devotion to these things. And technically, Krishna gave these men the ability to play football well or whatever. But to spend 3 or 4 hours in a day watching a ball game, or follow the Olympics for hours and hours in a week, I mean, how does that play out in a devotee's mind?
They play out as a distraction. And one can become emotionally involved in those things and pour a lot of energy into them unnecessarily. The same kind of energy and devotion can be directed towards devotional activities, and then the benefit is very great. Otherwise, it is a great distraction. It's called, in the category of atyahara, or gramya kata, kinds of activities that are superfluous to devotional service but take a lot of energy and concentration. All kinds of games and sporting things like that. Not that devotees don't sport. I mean, within the Chaitanya Charitamrita, practically Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always performing some kind of festival that's fun for the devotees. There's a mango eating festival. There's the Rath Yatra festival. There's the devotees have these sporting events in the Ganga, where even great scholars like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Advaitacharya are splashing each other, and Mahaprabhu is noticing. Not that devotees become dead stones. In fact, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the title itself, means the activities that take place on the spiritual platform. And even there are all kinds of human interactions that are talked about in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. For instance, at the Rath Yatra, when Srivas Pandit was watching the dancing of Lord Chaitanya in the Rath Yatra, somebody behind him was touching and pushing him because they wanted to move him out of the way. That was the attendant of the king, Prataparuja, who couldn't see because Srivas Pandit was standing directly in front of him. And Srivas Pandit couldn't understand why he was being touched and pushed. So finally he turned around and he smacked Harish Chandra, who was the one who was pushing him. And Harish Chandra was just about to retaliate. And Prataparuja Raj said that, "I'm not so fortunate. I haven't been struck by a pure devotee. I haven't been slapped like that. I wish I was so fortunate." And immediately diffused the situation. The point is that there are all kinds of interactions and sporting activities and everything, but when they're connected to Krishna, then they become transcendentalized. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmagnam Brahmano Hutam Tinaiva Brahmagantabhya Brahmakarma Samadhina. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, anything that's connected to service to Krishna becomes transcendentalized. I mean, I'm sure there's a way the NFL could be dovetailed one way or another. What if at halftime they had a big kirtan? I mean, you know, they have Madonna and they have, I don't know who else. They come out and do a halftime show, but what if, you know, they promoted these things in order to have, you know, Omkar come and do the halftime show? Who would like Omkar to do the next Super Bowl? Start practicing. Get ready for the next Super Bowl. A devotee? You mean on the football field? Well, we'd probably watch. I know that a lot of the parents in Alachua or something, there's one of the young players on some local team is one of the devotees. A young devotee kid who became very expert at soccer and went to all these championships. I forget what his name is. Anybody know? Gopal or something? Shyam? So everyone's at the stadium yelling, "Shyam, go Shyam!" Now we're going to read from the Chaitanya Bhagavat, and we're continuing from the first verse. I only got partway through the purport. In this first verse of the Mangalacharana, the forms of Sri Gaura and Sri Nityananda are described. They have long arms that stretch to their knees. Their complexions are like gold, and their eyes are like the petals of the lotus flower. These two brothers have been described and adored by the inaugurator of the Sankirtan movement, the protectors of religious principles for this age, the maintainers of the living entities, the benefactors of the universe, the best of the Brahmins, and the most merciful of all incarnations. Sri Gaurahari and Sri Nityananda are the bestowers of the Mahamantra, the spiritual masters of the universe, and the fathers of pure chanting of the holy names. They are both benefactors of the universe because they preach the principles of Jive Daya, compassion for all living entities. They are addressed as Karuna and Vishrambar, merciful and the maintainers of the universe, because they have preached the religious principles for the age of Kali in the form of serving Vishnu and the Vaishnavas through the process of Sankirtan. Through the process of what? Sankirtan. Which is the only means of deliverance for the people of this age. Everyone should follow the principles of such prayers by Name Ruchi, having a taste for chanting the holy names, Jive Doya, showing compassion for the living entities, and Vaishnav Seva, serving the Vaishnavas. By using Dvivachana, the verb form for two, rather than Bahuvachana, plural verb form, it is established that their preaching mercy and protection of Yugadharma is different from that found in seminal succession. The arms of great personalities stretched to their knees, as indicated by the words Ajanulambita Bhujao, whereas ordinary people's arms are not like that. Sri Gaura and Sri Nityananda are both Vishnu Tattva, who have appeared in this world. All the symptoms of great personalities were found in their transcendental bodies. It is stated in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 3:42-44, one who measures 4 cubits in height and in breadth by his own hand is celebrated as a great personality. Such a person is called Nyagroda Parimandalam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who personifies all good qualities, has the body of a Nyagroda Parimandalam. His arms are long enough to reach his knees, his eyes are just like lotus flowers, his nose is like a sesame flower, and his face is as beautiful as the moon. The phrase Kanakavadatau is explained as follows. Since they both perform pastimes in the mood of devotees, their complexions are golden. They are the Vishaya Vigraha, or shelter of all devotees. They are the source of all spiritual beauty, and they attract all living entities. Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Lord Nityananda is his personal manifestation. As stated in the Mahabharata, Dana Dharma, Vishnu Sahasranam Stotra, and in parentheses, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur refers here to 2 verses, but quotes only 2 lines from the former. 2 lines from the latter verse, Sannyasa Krishnama Shanto Nishta Shanti Purayana. In his later pastimes, he accepts the sannyas order, and he is equipoised and peaceful. He is the highest abode of peace and devotion, for he silences the impersonalist non-devotees. These are combined with the former 2 lines and quoted as 1 verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Suvarna Varna Hemango, Varnangaschanjanangadi. In his early pastimes, he appears as a householder with a golden complexion. His limbs are beautiful, and his body smeared with the pulp of sandalwood seems like molten gold. The word Sankirtanaika Pitaro indicate that Sri Gaura Nityananda are the inaugurators of the Sri Chaitanya, of the Sri Krishna Sankirtan movement. Srila Kaviraj Goswami has written in Chaitanya Charitamrita as follows: Sankirtan Pravartaka Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sankirtana Yagni Tandre Bhaje Chaitanya. Quote, Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya is the initiator of Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord. One who worships him through Sankirtan is fortunate indeed. By using the Dvivachana form of the word Vishvambar, both Vishvarup and Vishvambar are indicated. Sri Gaura and Sri Nityananda are both Vishnu Tattva, and since they have distributed love of God to the world through the chanting of the holy names, they are known as Vishvambar. Sri Nityananda and Sri Vishvarup are one. Quote, in his early pastimes, quote from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in his early pastimes he is known as Vishvambar because he floods the world with the nectar of devotion and thus saves the living beings. The verbal root, dubrin, which is the root of the word Vishvambar, indicates nourishing and maintaining. It indicates what? Nourishing and maintaining. Okay. He, Lord Chaitanya, nourishes and maintains the 3 worlds by distributing love of God. A reference to the word Vishvambar is given in the Vedas, Atharva Veda, 2nd Kanda, as follows: Vishvambar Vishvenama Varasa Pahi Swaha. Please preserve me by sustaining the universe, O Vishvambar, of the universe. The word Dvija generally refers to Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas who have undergone the purificatory processes. But here the word Dvijavarao refers to Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are dressed as Brahmins and who have taken the role of Acharyas. Only Brahmins are meant to take sannyas, because Kshatriyas and Vaishyas are not qualified. So according to ashram consideration, only Brahmins are addressed as Dvijavara. Both Sri Gaura and Sri Nityananda took the role of Jagat Guru Acharyas and taught devotional service of the Lord to the people of this world. Therefore, they are the crest jewels amongst the Brahmins. In this incarnation, they did not consider themselves cowherd boys and perform pastimes like Rasalila with any cowherd damsels, either in Gaudadesh or in Orissa. If one wants to destroy the distinction between the Madhurya pastimes of Vrindavan and the Adorya pastimes of Navadvip, then he will commit Rasabhasa and fall into hell due to the offense of opposing the conclusions of the author Vrindavan Das Thakur and Ramananda Roy. The word Dvijavaro may alternatively refer to Dvijarajao, or two full moons that have simultaneously arisen. The word yuga is explained as follows. A Mahayuga consists of 4,320,000 earthly years. A Kalpa, or day of Brahma, consists of 1,000 Mahayugas. In this day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus, each of whom rule for 71 such yugas. A 1/10 portion of a Mahayuga is the duration of Kali Yuga. A 2/10 portion of a Mahayuga is the duration of Dwapara Yuga. A 3/10 portion of a Mahayuga is the duration of Treta Yuga. And a 4/10 portion of Mahayuga is the duration of Satya Yuga. Regarding Yuga Dharma, the process of self-realization for Satya Yuga is meditation. For Treta Yuga is sacrifice. For Dwapara Yuga is deity worship. And for Kali Yuga is the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord Sankirtan. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 12:352, Krite yat yayato Vishnu, Tritayam yajato mukai, Dwapare paricharyayam kalota dari kirtanat. Whatever result was obtained in Satya Yuga by meditating on Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, and in Dwapara Yuga by serving the Lord's lotus feet, can be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Elsewhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam 12:351 it is stated, Kalir dosha niti rajan asti heko mahan guna kirtanadi akrishnasya mukta sangha parampraja. My dear king, although Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, there is still one good quality about this age. What is that one good quality? Simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one can become free from material bondage and be promoted to the transcendental kingdom. The Srimad Bhagavatam 11:536 further states, Kalim sabhajayantya ya gunatya sarabhagina yatra sankirtanenaiva sarvaswarto vilabhite. Those who are actually advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value. There's the word appreciate. Those who are actually advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value of this age of Kali. I mean, Kali is a bad age, but those who are advanced in knowledge, you're asking, what is an example of the appreciating capacity? Those who are advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value of this age of Kali. Such enlightened persons worship Kali Yuga, because in this fallen age, all perfection of life can easily be achieved by the performance of Sankirtan. And in the Vishnu Purana, it is stated, Jayan krite yajan yagnais tritaya dwapare chayan yarapnoti tarapnoti kalo sankirtikeshavam. Whatever is achieved by meditation in Satya Yuga, by the performance of sacrifice in Treta Yuga, and by the worship of Krishna's lotus feet in Dwapara Yuga, is obtained in Kali simply by?
I have a question.
Correct.
Question?
Simply by glorifying the name of Lord Keshava. The phrase Yuga Dharma Balo is described as follows. According to the scriptures dealing with karma kanda, or fruit of activities, the religious principles for the age of Kali is charity. But as the maintainers of Yuga Dharma, the two most magnanimous lords, Sri Gaura and Sri Nityananda, have inaugurated the congregational chanting of the holy names of Krishna. The Srimad Bhagavatam 11:532 and 10:8-9 says, Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sangopangash Parshadam Jagnai Sankirtanam Prayer Yajantihi Sumedasaha. In the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. Now, Omkar is smiling in the front row. What are you enjoying so much?
I like the verse you just quoted, the verse that you just read.
You like this verse, Sangopangash Parshadam. What do you like about it?
He said,
intelligent worship the person who always chants the name of Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya is always chanting the name of Krishna. That's right.
He's enjoying. Well, it doesn't take much to enjoy. I was thinking about it today. The mind has a lot of demands and desires. It always thinks, you know, if I just had this one other thing, then I'd be satisfied. But actually, real satisfaction comes from hearing and chanting. If you can learn to be satisfied by hearing and chanting, and also just let Krishna take care of the other things. There are a lot of extra things the mind wants and thinks that if I have this, I'll be all right. But if you can reduce, less is more. If you reduce the needs and desires and demands of the mind and funnel them into hearing and chanting, and you say that all I need is more time to hear and chant, and then Krishna naturally carries what you lack and preserves what you have in a better way than I could have. You know, I have this experience all the time when I go out to get something that I think I really need and I get it. And then, first of all, there's this anxiety, should I, shouldn't I? And then if I finally do get it, then there's buyer's remorse. Do you ever get this? It's just me. You get it and then you think, oh, should I? And then it doesn't work for some reason, or there's anxiety. But there's no anxiety in hearing and chanting. Especially if I dedicate my life in that way. And that is what Rupa Goswami says is the essence of all advice. Tanama Rupa Charitari Sukirtananu Smrityo Kramena Rasanam Anasim Yoja Tishta Raje Tananu Ragi Jananu Yami Kalam Naya Akila Kadesh. The essence of all advice, the saram, the cream of all advice, is that you should dedicate your life to hearing and chanting. It's such a powerful process. A submissive hearing. You simply let it go in. Even at the times, like when you do parikrama around Govardhan Hill, some places are very smooth, and it feels so good on the feet. Actually, one devotee who walks around Govardhan Hill every day was telling me that it's part of the Ayurvedic science to go barefoot, because you actually, you get so much from the surface of the earth. When you put rubber in between you and your foot, then you miss something. It's really true. When you walk around Govardhan in bare feet, and you can feel the temperature of the earth and the texture and so forth, but admittedly, there are some parts that can be pretty rough. Especially if they're doing road construction, they leave gravel everywhere. And then you just have to, as they say, suck it up and walk over that part, regardless of the fact that it seems a little austere. And similarly, in hearing and chanting, sometimes there's a way in which I may not have a complete taste, especially for technical parts of the philosophy, but it's important to go through all the books and listen. And inexplicably, the transcendental sound vibration actually goes in the ear and into the heart. Satam prasangam amavirya samvido bhavanti krit karna rasayana kata taj joshira asu apavarga vargani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramishiti. This verse says that when one hears and chants in the association of pure devotees, the effect is very profound, because the sound goes in the ear and then it ends up in the heart. And then the heart changes. There's a revolution in the heart. There's a transformation of the heart by what we hear. That's our whole philosophy, actually. And by that transformation, then we go in a different direction, because the heart is the driver of the chariot of the body. Whatever our heart desires, we're going to go for it. So you have to change your heart. Otherwise, you're going to go for something that's detrimental. And therefore, the verse says, when you hear and chant about Krishna and the association of pure devotees, then you change your course in life and you go for apavarga. And pavarga is the hidden description of the material world. Pa, pa, ba, pa, and ma. These are the syllables that epitomize the journey here in the material world. So, dare I say what they are?
Yeah.
Okay. Pa means hard work. That everyone has to work hard in this world, no exceptions. And pa means that you work so hard that foam comes from your mouth. You know, like the animals that pull a cart. Why do we have to work so hard? That's a good question to ask. I used to ask that when I was in high school. My mother said, first you get all A's, then you can ask these questions. But I quit before I finished. Fortunately, I was able to join the Hare Krishna movement. So pa means finial, or foam comes from the mouth. Ba means that there's disappointment. That there's always reversals. You get the opposite result of what you expected. Prabhupada points out that Gandhi, Prabhupada was a member of the Gandhian movement, and later on he talked about how his spiritual master told him that he didn't, it wasn't necessary to first get independence from India to be able to spread the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message and those who preach it are transcendental to the incidental occurrences and zeitgeist of the world. And he pointed out that later, although Gandhi worked so hard for his cause and sacrificed much, at the end, the very people that worked with him killed him. And he wanted unity, but he got the country chopped in half. Lord Mountbatten had that job. He came and divided up the country, took a pen and, okay, we'll go through here. That's a very difficult process, chopping cities and riverways and all kinds of things in half. And anyway, the exact opposite result of what he wanted happened. And same thing, Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra says to Krishna in the first chapter of the Gita that I'm getting the opposite result of what I was after. And this is disappointment. And then pa means fear. While I'm doing my work, I'm fearful. Even a little bird is looking over his shoulder all the time while he's eating to see who's coming to get him. And when you make money, don't you look over your shoulder and wonder who's going to take it? You have to lock it up, and then you're wondering, did I account for it properly? Am I going to have to pay for this later with penalties and interest and so forth? There's a lot of stress in accumulating anything in this world. Just moving about is stressful. And then the last one is ma, which stands for mrityu, which means death. Mrityu sarvaharash chaham. Krishna comes as death and takes away everything at the end. And I've seen it before. I mean, I've heard about it philosophically, that everyone's going to die, but I was with my mother when she passed away. I was very close with her, and I spent the last 4 days steadily with her before she left her body. And I noticed that, I mean, this is sort of an obvious statement, but I noticed that she left everything behind when she died. I mean, we talk about it all the time, but I actually noticed it because she was in her own home, and she had collected a lot of beautiful artwork, pottery, jewels, and all kinds of stuff she had all over the house. And then when she left, it was just left behind. And I noticed that she was here, it was hers, supposedly, and then all of a sudden she was gone and it was all left behind. And she said something to me when she was in the throes of leaving her body that I'll never forget. She said, I never want to have to do this again. Pretty interesting. So this process of mrityu, leaving behind everything that I've accumulated through the sweat of my hard work and so forth, is not pleasant. So apamarga means we change the direction of our deathly pursuits here in the material world, and we go back to Godhead. Apavarga means you reverse all of those aspects. How? By hearing, just by hearing about Krishna, hearing and chanting. And then the heart changes, and there's actually a step-by-step development which is very healthy spiritually, which means that there's a sense of Shraddha, faith, increasing faith, which means that I understand that the more I devote myself to the process of devotional service, I get everything else. Everything else is included. Confirmed. Not only by that, but listen to these characters out here. Can you hear them? Hyenas, right?
Coyotes.
Coyotes? Jackals? Yes.
I have two questions.
Okay.
Question number one is in one of the verses we read, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is worshipped by chanting the holy names of by congregation chanting the holy names of Lord Krishna. Whenever I am chanting the holy names of Lord Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not there in my mind. So who is there in my mind is Radha Krishna. In fact, most of the devotional activities I do, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for most of the devotional activities I do, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not there in my mind. Radha Krishna is there. So sometimes I feel that I'm actually not worshipping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How can we put these two together?
Well, they are together in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nayana. They're already together in one form. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha and Krishna. And by worshipping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and following his process, one naturally develops love for Radha and Krishna. Now you are following the process of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whether you realize it or not, but you're actually in his sampradaya. And you're following the system that he passed down to Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, personally taught to them, and it's been passed down. And the kinds of activities that you do and the kinds of ways that you worship Radha and Krishna are prescribed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through his devotees who have codified that process. So you're following it. And there are devotees who have every devotee is unique. They're not nobody's. There's no stereotype in devotional service. Everyone has a unique relationship with Krishna, or one of his expansions. And even in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement, there are those who have a proclivity to worship Radha and Krishna, although generally the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are worshiping Radha Krishna, but some are more focused on worshiping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and some worship both. And therefore, even as an ultimate destination, there's a way in which some devotees live in both Navadvipa and Vrindavan simultaneously, and worship both simultaneously, which is possible because spirit soul can expand or be in two places at once.
Second
I
question.
think you're all right, though.
Thank you. Second question is that regarding the statement that water result is obtained by meditation in Satyuga and by sacrificial performances in Treta, and by temple worship in Dvaparika is obtained by congregation channel of Lord Hari in Kaliyuga. Regarding the statement, I feel that this is my impression that chanting the holy names of Lord Krishna gives even more result than simply meditation or doing sacrificial performances during temple worship. So in other words, the result obtained by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is actually better than what is obtained in Satyuga by meditation, or what is obtained in Dvaparika by sacrifices, or what is obtained in Dvaparika by temple worship. Is that correct?
The holy name is always fully potent, and that process of chanting the holy names exists. It's eternal. It's an eternal process. However, in other ages, people have different kinds of qualifications, and therefore they concentrate on different kinds of processes. And the verses say what was obtained in those other ages is available through the chanting of Hare Krishna, which Jiva Goswami says is particularly prominent in the Kali Yuga, and people's qualification in Kali Yuga is that they're disqualified. And that is their qualification. And therefore there's a dispensation, an easy process for them to approach. But the Sanatana Goswami talks a lot about the chanting of the holy name and how potent it is to worship Krishna through chanting his names, and that it is especially relishable and beneficial for anyone who engages in that process. Yeah, one more? Yeah.
So what kind of meditation do people do in Satyuga? Because in Kali-yuga we are doing mantra meditation, so the mind is still being focused on.
The kinds of meditation that devotees do in Satya Yuga is similar to what they do on Tapoloka and other higher planets. The four Kumars, for instance, are expert at this kind of meditation, and they're able to still the mind and focus on a particular form of the personality of Godhead internally, and fix their mind in one place. And their meditation becomes so powerful, and for instance in Tapolok, that their bodies are more subtle there anyway, but by the power of their meditation, they actually manifest the form that they're meditating on externally.
So do they then concentrate on the Paramatma natures, or could they still be focusing on the two-handed form?
It depends on the devotee. And Manish, last thing before we have kirtan.
Just a point on appreciation.
Yes.
I wanted to say a reflection. It's very hard sometimes to connect the dots. Sometimes a misery comes to you and you initially take it as why did this happen to me? But when things settle down, you see that it's for a spiritual gain, and then you start appreciating the Lord in that.
It's hard to connect the dots forward. It takes some internal fortitude by association with devotees and practice of hearing and chanting to tolerate these kinds of missteps and calamities and so forth, and to wait until and calm down. There's a reaction that may take place within the mind and heart that, oh no, I'm finished now, or great difficulty has come to me. But if we're able to take shelter of the fact that Krishna is our well-wisher, and that whatever is coming to us is a process of purification for our own good, then we can come to the point of actually seeing how, when the dust settles, I'm in good hands. Krishna's taking care of me. And we'd also like to appreciate Manish, who's flown all the way from Bangalore to join the Yatra. But on a scale of 1 to 10, that appreciation was about a 1, so let's Now, admittedly, we've come to the end of what we advertised was the time. However, we haven't heard Omkar's Kirtan yet, which last night was the highlight of the whole program. And therefore, you have a choice. We're going to have a kirtan. If you need to go, then you can go ahead. Otherwise, we're going to have some bhajan now. And we have some candles. You can light the candles. Oh, and you have announcements. Yes, announcements, of course, coming up about what's going on around here. And then there's, we're going to have a bhajan. And after that, I think there's a snack. Is that correct? Snacks for everybody. Okay, announcements.
We ask a question.
You can ask questions anytime.
Go ahead and ask a question about tomorrow.
No, about today, tomorrow.
Yes.
Kirtan. The program for tomorrow is that we'll be visiting ISKCON Mayapur, and we'll be seeing a lot of things. Few of the things are a visit and a tour to the Gurukul over there, Prabhupada Samadhi, etc. And the timings will be as usual. We will meet for breakfast at 9 o'clock and then depart from here on foot. And we'll be doing Kirtan on the way. Come back at 2 o'clock, have our lunch, and then have rest. Or do whatever you want to do till 4:30, then we meet again over here for the lecture by Guru Maharaj.
What if it takes a time? Is that happening plan?
But if there will be, let you know. And actually, I was just reflecting on that I should, whenever I announce the plans for the next day, I should always say, if Krishna will me. Instead of what happens. Yeah, so we do have some alternate plans in mind, we let you know. So the question was that what happens if there's a change of plan? Do we have a plan B? And tomorrow also brings very happy.
If there's a hurricane or something?
And we looked at the weather and there are no signs of rain. But it says, as far as I could, we could look into over the internet, it would just show us for Navadvip now, Navadvip is 9 islands, so which island is going to rain, which island is not going to rain, it's not clear still. But for the rest of the day, or the rest of the tour, rest of the yatra, there's all sunshine. There's some clouds and some showers early in the morning tomorrow, but the rest of the day is sunny. So here is Krishna Vilayam. Yes.
Rain or shine tomorrow.
Shalom.